You're watching Global Montreal. This is Global News at 5:30.
Hi there, thanks for joining us. Well, all eyes focused south of the border again today as protests continue to boil in the U.S. The death of George Floyd at the hands of police, igniting tensions that have been simmering for decades. The pictures from cities and towns across that country show a nation under intense pressure, with demonstrators demanding action to confront racial injustice. The president so far has responded with tear gas and threats to call in the military. Now, in a moment, we'll have our Prime Minister's reaction to that. But first, a story from here at home, where the city of Montreal is being pushed to take a second look at the use of body cameras on police officers. Braden Jagger-Haynes has more.
On the heels of thousands of Montrealers taking to the streets on Sunday to voice their frustration with police action, several boroughs joined the chorus. NDG, Pierrefonds, and Montreal North all adopted motions Monday night that would outfit police with body cameras.
You know, it's time we go beyond hashtags and, showing our outrage about police brutality.
While the death of George Floyd sparked outrage across North America, closer to home, Sue Montgomery says that Montreal and NDG in particular has its own long history of police violence. Referring to the recent 2018 death of Nicholas Gibbs at the hands of police officers.
As elected officials, we have the duty to oversee the police. So this is a way to ask for more accountability, more transparency.
After a 7-month pilot project last year, the city of Montreal decided not to equip its police service with body cameras, citing cost and equipment issues as the main reason for their decision.
Enough is enough, and we're asking the city of Montreal to change its position, to go ahead as quickly as possible with the implementation of body cams.
In response to Monday's motions, the city said it has always been in favor of the cameras.
Hearing, hashtag Black Lives Matter, so it's bringing the issue back on the table. But for us at the city, we want to go forward with body cams.
Several big cities, including Calgary, have already implemented the police tech. In Montreal, the city says it is currently in talks over provincial and federal approval and is looking into newer technology.
The technology was not able to guarantee that we could use some of the footage in court as a proof, both at the provincial and the federal level.
We want this to have to add more studies and to go back to Quebec for any kind of funding. We need to do this now.
While the calls for justice continue to grow, the city says it still has no time frame for when body cameras will be deployed. Braden Jagger-Haynes, Global News, Montreal.
Well, a powerful moment of reflection in the Prime Minister's daily briefing this morning on the topic of racial unrest in the United States. As Abigail Beeman explains, Justin Trudeau was asked what he thought of the U.S. president's actions in the face of the massive protests.
The Prime Minister is generally reluctant to talk about the words and actions of U.S. President Donald Trump. The reporter asking Trudeau about what's happening south of the border set up his question with that point. And it took Trudeau an unusual amount of time to decide what to say next.
I'd like to ask you what you think about that. And if you don't want to comment, what message do you think you're sending?
We all watch in horror and consternation what's going on in the United States. It is a time to pull people together, but it is a time to listen. It is a time to learn what injustices continue despite progress over years and decades. But it is a time for us as Canadians to recognize that we too have our challenges, that Black Canadians and racialized Canadians face discrimination as a lived reality every single day.
The Prime Minister went on to say there is systemic discrimination in Canada and that Canadians need to see it. But it rarely takes him 1 second to answer a question, let alone the 21 seconds that you just witnessed as he tried to gather his thoughts. But with that answer, he still didn't share his thoughts on the American president using tear gas for a photo op in D.C. Monday night or calling in the military to break up protests. Trudeau wouldn't explain why, only saying it's his job to stand up for Canadian interests and values, and he'll continue to do that. Abigail Beeman, Global News, Ottawa.
And we're seeing poignant testimonials as people share their own experiences with racial profiling. Alouettes head coach Kahari Jones has now added his voice to those speaking out. Jones says during his college days, he and his friends were handcuffed by police, put on the ground, and had guns drawn in what police have called a case of mistaken identity. When he played for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Jones says he received death threats because his wife is white. The 49-year-old also had this to say on Twitter before he addressed the media, quote, "I can't stop thinking about George Floyd. He is me. Breonna Taylor is my daughters. I am angry, hurt, and sad."
It probably brings people back to either, racist dealings in their lives or things with their families, and the way the country started is not the best for Black people, and it still isn't, and so it has to. Hopefully, this is a move to make it a lot better.
So heartbreaking. To the pandemic now and the situation in Quebec today. The battle against the virus here continues to be waged mainly in our seniors' residences, with 3,052 people in those homes now confirmed to have died of COVID-19. In all, 4,713 Quebecers have now lost their lives to this virus. 52 new deaths were reported in the past day. This province now reporting 51,593 cases since the start of the pandemic, with 239 new ones in the past 24 hours. Montreal accounts for half of the total cases. 107 new ones were reported in the past day. The stress on Quebec's healthcare network continues to ease, though. There are now 1,175 people being treated for COVID-19. 161 of them are in intensive care. But it is those deaths I mentioned in seniors' homes that were once again the focus for the Premier today. The government officially launched its campaign to recruit 10,000 new orderlies, and already almost 36,000 people have applied through the government's recruitment website in just the first day. As Raquel Fletcher reports, the Premier appealed to people's sense of compassion today.
Thérèse a 88 ans. Toi, t'en as 28. The province needs to recruit 10,000 permanent workers in long-term care homes. Premier François Legault says it's crucial to prepare for a possible second wave and protect seniors who've been the most vulnerable during this COVID-19 pandemic. Last week, he announced salary increases for orderlies. Tuesday morning, he appealed to Quebecers' sense of compassion.
I'm asking all Quebecers from the bottom of my heart, if you're ready to mobilize your strength, your energy, your humanity, if you want to make a real difference in the life of our elderly, please join us. Opposition parties remain skeptical the campaign will be successful.
It might be a good publicity, but we have a lot of bad publicity through the years about what's going on at CHSLD. And a lot of people said, we work in dangerous conditions. People that we are in charge of are in danger or in bad condition, and they keep telling this to the Minister of Health, and nothing happened.
But during Tuesday's question period, Premier Legault boasted about the number of people who already applied. And the Education Minister added that Anglophones who aren't as skilled in French will also be sought after.
We will give this new course within the Francophone system and within the Anglophone system.
Despite the debate over the status of asylum seekers, Legault said they are not eligible for the training.
In order to have the right to follow some courses in Quebec from the network of the education system, you need to be a resident.
The Premier repeated his promise to look at the cases where asylum seekers are already working in long-term care homes and bring them under the fold of the regular immigration program so they can apply for permanent residence status. Raquel Fletcher, Global News, Quebec City.
Well, the City of Montreal is planning for its economic recovery after COVID-19 with the help of a panel of experts on finance, economy, and urban planning. The experts outlined 16 recommendations. One is that the province gives Montreal temporary powers to run a deficit. Now, the city says it doesn't want to do that, but it may have to, given the financial strain the pandemic has put on its budget. Panel also recommending that all levels of government should help finance relief efforts and support public transit in Montreal. The experts also recommending that local events like festivals, which are a big source of income for the city, should be moved online as much as possible.
So we hope that these recommendations will assist the city in thinking through the recovery plan.
The panel of experts also says the city should have powers to inspect businesses to make sure they are COVID ready. Well, day camps across this province were given the green light to operate this summer, but many municipalities and private camps have decided not to open for a variety of reasons. As Felicia Perillo tells us, parents are struggling now to find options.
Beth Beecher's two sons wait all year for summer to come along just so they can go to Montreal West's day camp.
That fits with our budget, it fits with our lifestyle, and yesterday we were informed that they're not opening the camp for the summer.
Beecher says the cancellation is disappointing for her and her sons, but it's also left her scrambling for other options.
I mean, the only alternative other than bringing the kids to work, which is really the 9 times out of 10 what happens, is to cheaply employ a high schooler with, this is our budget, this is all we've got. What can you do with this?
Nearly 2 weeks ago, the provincial government announced day camps would be allowed to operate this summer. However, many municipalities and private camps have decided not to, citing the strict guidelines provided to them. On Tuesday afternoon, Quebec made an announcement aimed at helping camps open. The province will be giving $11 million to the Quebec Camp Association to help pay for extra staff.
I hope that the camps that said that they will not open this summer will reconsider, because our goal is to make sure that as many children as possible are participating in camps this summer.
Since many traditional camps won't be open for business this summer, this 15-year-old Hampstead resident came up with an idea: an outdoor kid-sitting service.
We take your child and 3 others of their friends for a 3-hour period between 1 to 4, and we play activities, sports, we can art, jewelry making, dancing, anything, biking around, anything the children want to do.
It looks like parents may have to think outside of the box for childcare options this summer. Montreal West and Pointe Claire told Global News they will not reconsider their decision to open day camps. It's unclear if the others will follow suit. Felicia Perillo, Global News, Montreal.